like
He has ran so many
front
people
staff
off.
to
He's
come
ran all
in
these
and
people
help.
off. He's ran,
So we're bringing it back.
he riders off 3 years ago. Now he's running 12 more off.
That works.
But again, it's just how they operate.
Has a minute faster than that's good. I still got a minute though. Should we go with this one?
I heard you're sick.
Get over it, so.
Love it.
We're all gonna breathe on you.
I don't have a fever or anything like that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this. Right?
It's just optional.
So like drinks, could be Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Aren't you gonna get another kind? Wait. Aren't you gonna get another kind, just Coca-Cola?
Soda.
Just soda.
There's
It's
a
a mix.
soda.
There's another kind?
Diet Coke.
Maybe not.
Coke Zero.
Maybe not.
I'm going off my phone if you guys are wondering what we're doing. So,
These are
there's Kevin.
Serena.
So you need to fill out a form.
I guess I'm the bread dude, huh? Okay, maybe bread. Serena.
It's just our way of saying thanks to the employees, but we know it's in the middle of the day, so it's hard for some to use.
Well, I can break bread.
All right. Okay, we're ready. My clock says 6.
Okay.
Good evening. We would like to go ahead and call the Holbrook regular city council meeting to order at 6 p.m. on December 13th, 2023. Last one of the year. So, roll call. Everybody's in attendance except for Councilman Dixon, who is excused tonight. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Tafoya, and our invocation will be given by Kip Myers. If you can please rise.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, thank you.
Our gracious Father God, we thank you that we can be here this evening and that you are here with us. We ask, Father, for your wisdom to be poured out on our council, Father, that you might give wise leadership to this town, that we might head in directions, Father, that are honoring to you, and that our town, our city in the White Mountains might be seen as that city on a hilltop, a light that shines even throughout our state. Father, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy to us, and we just pray and ask that you would bless us now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. All right. Item number 4, consent agenda. So we'll be consenting on 2. It'll be for the November 8th regular scheduled meeting minutes and along with our November 15th, 2023 work session minutes. You should have all received a copy of your minutes. Is there any questions on it or concerns? Hearing none, we'll open the floor for a motion.
I move
Sure.
Go ahead.
I move that we accept the November 8th and November 15th minutes as written and presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No other questions or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, call to the public for non-agenda items. So Mr. Sullivan, I believe you have a few. Are these non-agenda or
Yes, it
agenda?
was. We have 2 of them.
You want me to talk?
You want Karina and time?
Oh, yes. Sorry, we do want to excuse our
Yes, if you don't
clerk.
mind, thank you.
So,
Claire.
thank you.
You don't have?
All right. Mr. Lloyd Johnson, if you can come on up, you will have 3 minutes, and Councilwoman Pack will let you know when your 3 minutes is up. Thank you very much. And if you'll go ahead and address your name again, I know I said it, but if you'll repeat it, we'd appreciate it.
Very well. Yeah, I'm Lloyd Johnson, running for state representative. for this district, LD6. I'm also taking time off of that to do some of the Santa work in the community. This Saturday, I will be at the Studio 66 in the morning. I've got books in the afternoon. Next week, Wednesday, North Country will be doing a special Christmas event. Just people stop in and say hi and get a picture taken with Santa Claus. And after Christmas season is over, then I get to go hardcore into campaign mode. As several of you know, it's a lot of work. So appreciate any support I can get in the campaign. All right, thank you much.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Second, we've got Kevin Self and James Self. Are you speaking together for your 3 minutes?
Yeah, emotional support.
All right, sounds good. And if you'll go ahead and introduce yourself.
Gotcha. My name is Kevin Self. I was raised here in Holbrook, and many of the council members know me. We live out on McLaws Road. I have a proposal for a pedestrian pathway along McLaws Road to enhance connectivity. There's a handout that I was to share with you guys. So, dear members of the City Council, writing to propose the installation of a dedicated pedestrian pathway towards McLaws Road, extending from its current location at the conjunction of Apache Avenue and East Romero Street out to West Hill Road, with a potential extension to the City of Holbrook city limits. The initiative aims to address the growing pedestrian and bicycle traffic between neighboring communities and the City of Holbrook. Part of the rationale is just the high foot and bicycle traffic that takes place. There's quite a bit of traffic there. A lot of it takes place at nighttime after hours with almost near zero visibility. Most of that traffic takes place on the roadway with the motor vehicles as the shoulder is overgrown. Another rationale for this is an attempt to connect to the community of the central Holbrook with its outlying neighborhoods, fostering a sense of community and promoting a healthier lifestyle. There would also be economic impact. Improved connectivity can have positive economic implications. Citizens that do not have access to a motor vehicle would be more inclined to commute to town and explore local businesses and amenities, thereby stimulating economic growth in the area, as well as the environmental benefit, more people using net carbon neutral modes of transportation. The implementation plan would be, of course, surveying and planning, conducting a survey out towards West Romero Street, South Whiting Avenue, and McLaws Road, collaborating with urban planners to design an efficient pathway that meets the needs of the community. Community engagement, seeking input from the local neighbors there, collaboration with different stakeholders. There would be a phased implementation. As you can see from the proposal, I have a couple figures on the back 2 pages. The initial pathway would simply reach from that connection of Apache Avenue and East Romero Street. It would reach to West Hill Street, I believe is what it was, or West Hill Road. So that could be the first implementation, the first phase. That is where the most traffic takes place between those neighborhoods and the City of Holbrook. Again, in a very kind of dangerous road in the middle of the night where there's no lights, and again, they're walking directly on the roadway. I can tell, a lot of stories and experiences from driving, down the road, and there's some kid on a skateboard or biking or something like that, and there's simply nowhere else for him to go. The second implementation, the second phase, would be, of course, from West Hill Road further down to the city limits, passing the Seventh-day Adventist Indian School. Those are all locations that there is a high amount of traffic, a high amount of residents that would benefit not just safety-wise, but also economically from this proposal.
All right, thank you very much. So you tapped a lot in there, we appreciate it. So as a reminder, we're not allowed to respond to the presentations. However, we can direct staff to look into it more. And it's good timing. We've got our general plan and strategic plan coming, and so we will look into this. So thank you very much for that. So one of our most prepared presentations, so we appreciate that too. All right, Mr. Sullivan, any more last minute ones, or are we good?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, call to the public for agenda items.
We have one.
we have, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Carol Mendenhall?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, since this is an agenda item, you actually have 5 minutes. So,
All right.
and, our council, Pat, will let you know again.
Hi, I'm Carol Mendenhall. I'm currently the manager over at Motel 66, and when the restaurant opens, at Restaurant 66, I will be the manager over there, all right? I can lose my job by being here and saying what I'm fixing to say, but we have a liquor license on the table for there. It would not be in the public's best interest for you guys to give us that liquor license. No matter what my boss says, it is not a good idea. All right, we're cleaning up the drugs. We've run out the issue with the drugs and stuff like that. We're trying to make things every bit better. But I also know who comes by us every day, who I have contact 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with. And I think this would be a nightmare, not just for us, but for everybody. If they want to drink, go across the road to the Chameleon, go down the road to Hot Pockets, go to Circle K, whatever the case may be. But it's just really not in the public's best interest. And like I said, I can lose my job by even saying any of this, but I don't care. All right? And that's all I've got to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you, we appreciate you being here. All right. Moving on to item number 7, new business. A call of election for a one-time override of expenditure limitations. We will go ahead and turn the time over to Manager Sullivan, Interim Manager Sullivan, for an explanation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Every 4 years, we are required to take our expenditure limitation back to the vote of the people. The last cycle, that did not happen. And so this current fiscal year, we are bound by the state imposed limitation. The next election to get the alternative limitation won't be until August. So that means that will be for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. In the meantime, if we need to take this to the election, if we get it passed in May, that would buy us a 1-year override to the alternative limitation until the new one kicks in August. So I am recommending to call an election in May to get this one-time override to help next year's budget.
So to clarify, we're actually being limited this fiscal year as well, correct?
Correct.
So-
And basically what it means is by doing the one-time override and it come in August, the alternative means if we have the money, we're allowed to spend it at the council's discretion. If not, we're bound by the state. And the state numbers take a 1978 number, multiply it by inflation factors and population factors, which ours is decreased, and it comes out with an ending number. And this year and next year, if we don't do this, we'll be bound by the state imposed limit.
So for an example, I mentioned to Manager Sullivan about a month ago, I'm like, hey, I know we have that $350,000 in the Travelers Lodge, is that something we can start looking into the Blevins House or Bucker Blood? And he informed me that, hey, we approved the budget right here, but the expenditure limit says we can only spend here. So I've asked Manager Sullivan to come back to us maybe in January and give us kind of an update. So we've approved a budget we can't spend. And so I'm not sure how many of us were aware of that when the budget went through. And I'm not sure what the difference is, about 100,000? No, it's about $1 million, I mean. Where are we short on that expenditure limit?
Well, what we approved is like the $1 million fire truck, those kind of things. Those is what put us over. But the main operations, that worked under the state imposed limit.
Can I ask?
Yes, go ahead.
Randy, is there a reason why we're not gonna wait till November or August for the regular election?
Because if we wait till August, next budget year, it won't kick in until
There's a deadline.
so we'll miss the deadline. So if this passes in May, then that'll be effective for next budget year. If it don't pass in May, then we'll still be affected by the state imposed. Because come August, that'll be for the next year, the next set of 4 years.
Okay.
So why wasn't this, the
Uh,
budget
I
being done
can't
to
tell you
begin
what prior management and council did.
Didn't we just have a budget talk, or we had budgets in June?
We did, but we approved a budget, but we never were told about the expenditure limits as we approved that budget. And so there's money out there that we have, we just can't spend it.
So wouldn't that have been like the finance manager would have known that as well? That we didn't
Yes.
discuss it then?
Yes, but at that point, we were already past the deadlines to where we had to get a budget approved.
So it wouldn't have mattered.
We were hitting deadlines on getting the budget approved. And that was kind of,
So what's putting us over is a $1 million fire truck.
it's a couple of things. So, the expenditure limitation, right now, when we passed the budget, it was 15 million. And the state imposed is around 8 to 9 million. So, a lot of those things, when you do the state imposed, you can take the grants away, so that knocks down the 15 million. And then, internal controls, since we found this out, we're pushing the fire truck back, we're pushing the extra payment for public safety back, we're pushing all that back so we can meet the state imposed deadline.
Do any of the new hires affect that at all? Because I know there's been a couple.
No,
new
because
hires.
we moved from one budget item to the next, we never increased the budget.
And how much is that gonna cost to run a special election?
It's not special. The county's already doing an election in May, so we're tagging along with that election. But it's around $5,000.
So we're gonna have to pay $5,000 to piggyback on the county's election to get that passed?
Yes, and we used to do our own elections, but now we contract with the county.
And that's budgeted, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, there is elections budgeted.
And just to clarify, in the end, it is supposed to be a city manager that brings us to a balanced budget. That's the role of the manager.
Well,
So just to clarify. Go ahead.
well, that's a question I have. So you're saying that last year we approved a budget that we didn't have money for?
No, we have the money. We just are imposed by the state
the state?
that we can't spend it. We have the money. The
Unless
state
we-
is just saying we can't spend it
Unless we pass this over.
unless we pass something like this, yes.
Okay.
So what we're voting on tonight is to say we have to call an election as a council, saying that we want this on the ballot for the April ballot, or April or May ballot, sorry.
No, it's May 21st,
May, thank you.
Tuesday, May
Oh.
21st ballot. The deadline to register is April
22nd.
22nd.
All right, thank you. So if we don't get this passed from the public, then that's gonna affect our budget next year. So, all right, any other questions?
Does this have to be voted on tonight?
So all
Or
we're
is it
voting on
talking
tonight
about-
is to be able to call the election. That means we inform the county that we will be putting this election together. Yes. All right, so any other questions? With that, I will open the floor for a motion.
I move that we approve the election, the one-time override expenditure limitation election for Tuesday, May 21st, 24.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, let me read this real quick, too. So call of the election, public notice of the city of Holbrook. Notice is hereby given that the city of Holbrook, Arizona will hold an election Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 for a one-time override of the expenditure limitation. Voter registration deadline for primary election is April 22nd, 2024. For more information, call the city clerk's office at 928-524-6225.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item number B, for the liquor license, 012 restaurant for the 66 restaurant located at 2501 Navajo Boulevard. By Sharma. So we have the documentation that was presented to the state. Having a call to the audience, that's the first time I've had somebody come and oppose. So it made me think, okay, what is our right as a council then to be able to investigate more and find out, what's our role and responsibility as a council? I know with planning and zoning, if everybody meets the criteria, we're just here to vote to say not on emotion, but based on, do they qualify, do they meet all the standards? And so,
So this is not a restaurant that, I'm sorry.
so it sounds like it's not a restaurant that's quite open yet,
So
but they will be.
they're in the process of opening.
Correct.
Is this under new ownership? Cause I know it's already, well, it was previously owned.
Yeah, it was rented out and leased before to another restaurant that was closed down, but the lady that owns, as far as I understand, the people that own the motel own the restaurant, so they will be opening that. Is that as you understand it too?
That's my understanding.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I suggest that we table this until we find out more information on what we can and can't do? Because right now we don't know. So let's find out what our responsibility is and go forward with that, because
That can be a motion, so.
And Mr. Sharma or Mrs. Sharma, she's not here to answer questions.
No.
No, she's not.
May I say one thing? If she was here, I wouldn't be here, I promise that.
So, all right, thank you for that, so, all right. Any further discussion? Well, I'll open the floor for a motion then.
okay, I motion that we table this till we find out more information on what's in the city's best interest on this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further question or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion on the table to table it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion has been tabled, and so we will look into it and see what our rights are and responsibility as a council, so thank you for that, so,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, item number C, discussion and possible action entering into a lease agreement with Petrocom of Holbrook. And so Petrocom, to clarify for those, well, I can read it here. You'll have a council action form, it's under tab number 4. So Petrocom is currently rents a building from the city of Holbrook, and just to clarify, Petrocom is also who runs our KDJI radio station. So Petrocom currently rents a building from the city of Holbrook, and the building is constantly getting flooded. When that happens, Petrocom cannot service equipment. This agreement would allow them to place equipment in a small corner of the treatment plant and give them easier access. A few months ago, we did have Cindy Cerna came, and she presented with pictures to show us how bad it was flooded. It wasn't a small issue, it was a major issue that did impact their access. And so, I will turn the time over to Manager Sullivan to describe the contract and what it would entail.
Thank you. So, currently we have just a room at the treatment plant that nobody uses, and it's, mainly for conferences or whatever. Anyways, it's a blank space. Petrocom and Hank Ash has been trying to figure out ways to put a small transmitter where it's not going to flood, where they can easily access to it. So in working with the attorneys and Hank Ash on an agreement, we've agreed to allow them, if this passes, to use a small corner of that room, and then they would have to run and come to us. It's really not any liability or expense on our side, and it'd be a mutual agreement for them to be able to access their equipment easier.
And we'll be paying for the electricity for their equipment.
Yeah, they will be paying for the electricity.
All right.
So,
Council-
excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead.
So there's not a monetary thing going on here, it's just,
Right.
So we're not gonna be collecting any revenue for leasing out a portion of the building
No,
for them?
no, and the piece of equipment's probably the size of the podium.
So it's
So
gonna
I-
take up the entire room of the conference room?
No, it's just gonna be in the back corner of the conference room. So it's not gonna really.
Still be used?
Oh, yeah, it's not gonna affect the building at all.
And is the city gonna be responsible if anything happens to that podium, or that equipment being
No,
in that
no,
conference room?
we have no harm in
In the contracts about it, yeah, there's a,
the main worry is just access, which is, the plant's always open anyways. So if it's after hours, those are minor details that we could work out.
and they did say that they would, do public service announcements for us in exchange as well, so getting KDJI back, anytime you have any kind of a entity that's helping us to advertise and for communication to our public, is always a good thing as well. But yeah, in the contract, it does talk about any hold harmless agreements.
So when you mentioned they're gonna do advertisements for us, for the city or for
Correct.
any events that the city has on, as in?
So we used to
Any public
have city
service
council
event,
in
Right, we
On
used to have
KDJI.
city council on it, any advertisements we did for events, they would post it for us, those kind of things, so they opened it back up for that.
So we would be able to have the council meetings broadcast through the radio?
Correct.
We-
They
we-
did mention that could be a
yes, they could.
possibility,
A
yes.
possibility, but it's not something that would happen if,
It's not official, but they're fairly open to,
Yeah,
they're thankful to be able to, they can't operate right now without this transmitter. So,
and there's some other things that are in the works too, so it's not only this transmitter, but they're trying to re-register with the FCC, and right now what they have isn't gonna work, so they're trying to work with the FCC and this transmitter to try to coincide with everything, to make it work.
Okay. No, go ahead.
And from there, they'd run cable to their tower.
Yeah. Mhm.
yes.
I'm not seeing a time on this lease. Is this a yearly lease or is this something that goes on? I'm not seeing anything in there about the timeline.
Let me see, where it is.
and it does say that the lease
So
shall
5
be-
years. It
Where
says
you
on
seeing
term,
that?
number 3, term.
So for 5 years. So there is a, term or a rent amount of $1 for the term of this lease. So
Yeah,
there is a-
when you do things like that, it's just kind of a formality.
Does it mention in here that they're gonna be able to do any advertisements or put anything on broadcast for council meetings? or
No,
for the
we
city
didn't
itself?
put that in the lease because it wasn't, we weren't trying to muddy it and put dollar values on any of that kind of stuff, so.
But there is a severability clause, if anybody's not happy with it after a certain amount of time. or-
Right, we got 30 days,
got
we
30
can get
days.
out of it.
So if we feel like we're not getting, used for it, if we're being taken advantage of by any reason, we have 30 days, we can get out, either one of us can get out of this contract.
The only thing I'm a little concerned about is, you just said, well, in this lease that you didn't put it in the lease or the paperwork that the city or the radio station would do advertisements for the city if they could use our building to put their equipment in, because you didn't wanna muddy the contract, but so they can or cannot, so there's no benefit for the city to allow the radio station to have their equipment in the conference room under our building.
Anytime we can bring communication to Holbrook is gonna be an advantage to the city economically, anybody.
Well, I
that's,
understand that it could
so-
be,
And
but,
sometimes there's not a dollar amount that we're gonna set, but to say there's no value, that's,
well, I'm
I would
not saying there
disagree.
wasn't value, I'm not saying it wasn't a dollar amount, I'm just saying that you had mentioned that there would be, that they would advertise for us in turn, but it's not a for sure thing, so we don't know whether they can or cannot, but you didn't wanna muddy the contract by even mentioning anything about that.
so, go ahead.
I just say to that, I mean, if the agreement is that they will go ahead and advertise for us and we find out they won't, 30 days later, we're done.
Exactly, so. All right, any other questions or concerns before we open it for a motion? Hearing none, we'll open the floor for a motion.
I'm motion that we accept this, rental lease agreement, I guess is what it's called.
Correct. With Petrocom.
Yeah, with Petrocom.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, item number D, resolution 23-16, a resolution entering into an IGA with the Arizona Department of Revenue. Typically, I like to read a resolution, not just by heading only, but since this is, I don't know how many pages long, I am gonna read it by header only tonight, so. Resolution number 23-16, a resolution of the City Town Council of the City Town of Holbrook, Arizona, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, between the City Town of Holbrook and the State of Arizona Department of Revenue for the administration, collection, audit, and licensing of transaction privilege taxes, and use taxes, severance taxes, jet fuel excise and use taxes, and rental occupancy taxes imposed by the state, cities, or towns. So, for a quick summary, under the discussion of the council action form, it says the city has to approve the IGA, and every several years the IGA goes through a revision. The last revision was done in 2019. Manager Sullivan, do you want to give us a little more explanation?
Yeah,
please?
so, several years ago, just a brief history, Department of Revenue has always collected sales tax for the cities. A couple of years back, some of the bigger cities tried to go out on their own and create their own collecting agency. The state came in and said, no, let's not do that. Let's keep the Department of Revenue as the sole agency. So every couple of years since then, they go through just minor tweaks and stuff. We have no really authority to say yes or no on any of this, because they just work through all those revisions to make sure the Department of Revenue and their staff are doing exactly what the cities and towns are wanting as far as collecting sales tax. Anytime we do have audits or anything like that, they run those audits for us. And there's a small fee that we have to pay every year as part of statute for them to be able to run the Department of Revenue and collect our sales tax. So this before you is the latest edition. The last one was updated in 2019, so it's been several years to make these updates.
So do you know if there's a lot of changes in this new one compared to 2019?
There's a list of changes in here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, I think it's towards the end, because
Yeah, it says notable
attorneys
changes,
talk about it.
says page 2, but that's after
Yeah, page 2.
guidelines for the 23.
So the notable changes is, full page long. But it's just, a lot of it just clarifies definitions of responsibilities, those kind of things. And then, they'll try to, make sure the verbiage through the agreement is consistent, so there's no contradicting, information, definitions, those kind of things.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. I was trying to go through it. IRS verbiage going. So, but, all right, any other questions for Manager Sullivan or discussion? Okay, we'll open it up for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the resolution entering into the IGA with the Arizona Department of Revenue.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 23-16. Since the resolution, we will need a roll call vote.
Yes. Councilman Black.
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen.
Aye.
Councilwoman Pacheco.
Aye.
Councilwoman Pack.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tafoya.
Aye.
And Mayor Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Right, item number E, purchase of a backup greens mower. Says the golf course needs a backup greens mower. Toro has provided us a quote on the state contract for $17,200. This was a budgeted item for golf course capital. Amount of $17,200. Manager Sullivan.
This is one of those items where, just kind of backing up into the other discussion, where we're not gonna pass the expenditure limit. This was budgeted at $100,000. In talking with Steve, we didn't need exactly to spend all that. But when he came in last time, he said he really needed a backup greens mower. So he went on the state contract and got this quote for this greens mower. It is a used one, but again, we're only spending $17,200 instead of $100,000 or $50,000 for a brand new one. So, and this is just gonna be a backup for, we already have a new one out there, but he's just worried that during the summer when it's really, really busy cutting greens, if that one was to go down, this would be the backup until that one got fixed.
Did these ones come with any warranty that they work and?
I think they come with a 1-year warranty is all they do.
And you said it's a used greens mower,
It's a used greens mower from Toro.
but it only has a 1-year warranty?
Yeah.
Do we know how old that mower is?
I think it says right here. Oh, no, it doesn't
Pre-owned,
say
yeah.
how old it is.
Were there any other quotes available?
No, we went
provided?
on state contract.
And do we know how much a new one would have cost?
They run around $50,000.
But we don't know for sure how much.
Well, the last time we bought one, I think it was 36 or something like that, and that was probably 8 years ago.
But we don't know how old this one is, and if it's only warranted for a year, I mean, we could be buying a dud. And
Yeah, well, they're certified through Toro, so, when we buy this equipment, we've done this before, and, Toro will work with us, and they'll help us repair it and all that kind of stuff, so they have a good, really good program.
So if you get something on state contract, no matter how much it costs, you do not have to get quotes
Yeah,
from
cause
different
state
people?
contract, the state has done the bid process for us. And they go out and they'll go out to bid on certain items with certain companies. And when that comes back, they say, yeah, this is a good contract. And they'll put all those good contracts on the state purchasing. Mojave contracts do the same thing.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Sullivan? All right, hearing none, I'll open the floor for motion. I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the backup greens mower by Toro in the amount of $17,200. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, item F, code enforcement update, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Just a quick update on code enforcement. I had been in, I'm starting to use a gentleman by the name of Joe Jarvis. He works for Snowflake and Taylor as well. And he is gonna be more working towards planning and zoning, maybe working with planning and zoning, being the first contact with planning and zoning, and trying to rezone some of our areas, especially down Hopi, and look at more of a housing kind of thing in some of those areas, and as well as commercial. So he's gonna be leaning towards more commercial code enforcement for some of those hotels, those kind of things, to make sure we're compliant with those. That way, Barbara can, concentrate on the residential stuff. So we're gonna be kind of, hitting it both ways there with that. And, Barbara has opened and closed 91 cases. So she's doing less than 20 hours a week, and I think she's doing a really amazing job. She currently has 32 open cases, and anytime you guys wanna stop in, or if you have a question on a property, go ahead and talk to her. She could either open one up, or more than likely on her board, it'll be on the board if she already has a case. So if there's any other questions, we do have, steps that we have to do. I think I spoke to the council once before. It starts with a complaint, then we send out a letter, we start working with the owner, and then it will progress through that. So if you guys have any questions on the steps or cases on certain properties, come and see me or Barbara, and we can help you guys, or start the process of the property.
I appreciate you adding the steps.
Right, so according to these steps, they get like 70 days to clean up
Yeah,
before we
Well,
enforce,
well,
really
it
enforce
depends
anything?
on the circumstances and how the owner works with us. But, if most of the owners will start working with us, that's why we have to send a letter or a certified letter if they didn't get the first one. So a lot of that, there's 30 and 30 in between those days.
So does Barbara, oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
So Barbara only does yard code enforcement, like weeds? and
Residential.
abatements? Residential?
Well,
She does both.
Yeah, she does both, but we're working with Joe Jarvis to help on the commercial side of things.
So is he employed or will be
No, he's a
contracted?
professional service contractor.
So we're gonna have
I
two.
think the question is, are we gonna be paying him?
Oh, yeah, of course,
Well, that
As
was
a
the
con-
question.
yeah. Yeah, he's a professional service consultant.
What are we paying him?
Well, whatever he bills by the hour.
And how many hours will he work, just
Well,
when
it
we need
depends on what projects we have. We're just barely starting on it, so, he'll be the first point of contact for any zoning issues for these new places that are coming in. And then, we really need to start looking at, blight, slumlord, resolutions, those kind of things, and he's gonna help us out with those.
Wouldn't that be zoning, like planning and zoning, that would be on top of that?
He does,
Should
but,
be.
but currently we have another person in planning and zoning in that, but his roles are gonna end up changing, we need a better point of contact when these customers first come in to make sure the zoning is zoned correctly.
Wouldn't that be an issue that planning and zoning would need to address within planning and zoning?
Yes, exactly. Well, this gentleman will be a more of a liaison with planning and zoning and work with planning and zoning.
So why won't we just hire a full-time person to do residential and commercial instead of a part-time residential and a contract commercial?
In my view, the consultant work, I can control it more on the hour side, and I don't have to pay the benefit side. It ultimately is a savings.
So,
So go ahead.
so is it because because Barbara's overwhelmed with the doing
Oh.
residential?
No, I wouldn't say she's overwhelmed. I would just say that we need more.
She's just part-time though. She's not
Oh,
full-time.
you're-
She's only
she's
part-time.
Yeah, she's just
part-time.
part-time.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, you don't wanna go full-time.
No. So,
I'm
that's the
retired.
difference.
Tomorrow we're tired.
And also, what we're gonna discuss later in managing, in our manager's report, by the time she starts, if we do get grants for the Department of Housing and things like that, she's gonna be really busy with those. They're really cumbersome grants, and, she's gonna be already doing double duty with that, so.
So, and I like the idea of a contractor. You know, we've had issues in the past years ago where it's not your neighbor as the code enforcement officer saying, hey, look at your weeds, and they're like, hey, I see you, you're my neighbor. So as a contractor, it kind of keeps that separation away. He's got a good system in place. He does it for Snowflake Taylor and I believe Winslow as well. So as far as code enforcement, he's working with the courts. It'll be just,
And again, it's one of those things where you can cut ties
if it doesn't
whenever,
work.
because it's not,
And that's,
you're not in a contract, it's not an employee, so.
How much are you looking at paying him? Is it a per hour basis?
It's a per hour basis.
How much are we looking at?
$60.
I had a drywall that charged me more than that, so that's a good deal in my book.
So would he be, like, oversee, like, when commercial places are putting fencing in and it's not up to
Yeah.
code?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
would be the one that would follow
Mhm.
through with that and make sure it was done correctly
Yes.
before it's already all put up?
Yeah, that's the plan.
And having that point of contact, you know, to make sure we stop this where we can get that education out to people before they start building things. So he'll be that front end person, making sure we get ahead of things before, instead of playing catch up all the time.
And it is part of reviewing our code too, because our city code, there's a lot of areas in there where certain paragraphs will contradict each other. And so with him looking at our code, we can try to revise it. We'll be bringing those revisions to council to make sure we're all on the same page with the code. And that way, there's no miscommunication there.
So if
It'll strengthen our
businesses
code.
apply for like a business license or whatever, do we give them copies of what our city codes are and
Currently,
expectations and all of
yes,
that
yes,
stuff
so
when they do that?
usually when a business owner comes in with that, they will ask what's required, and then we can give them that. And then that will be the first step, is making sure it's planned correctly or zoned correctly. And if it's not, working with planning and zoning on maybe a place that is zoned, or change that zone, which would all have to come back to you guys. So you'd be more of a liaison for planning and zoning, to make sure we're doing that process correctly. And then the second piece would be working with the building department, and making sure that it's built right, we have the right plans, those kind of things.
So it's not something we automatically give them. If they ask for it, we give it to them.
Right, yeah.
Why don't we just give
So
it
is
to
he,
them?
Well, yeah, if they have it, it's always on the website too, so we'll forward it to them on the website, and our building permit and all of that is on our website as well.
Yes.
he will be working under these same guidelines, the time guidelines?
Yeah,
Or
cause
is it
currently,
any different on
'cause-
commercial?
currently that's what's in our codes, and that's what when we end up sending our code violations to the attorneys, we have to follow those steps to make sure we're not pushing or going, doing something that is illegal. So everything is in our code, and it goes to the attorneys if it ends up being that way, and then that way we have something to fight. If not, then we're not doing it the proper way. So,
And I do know planning and zoning is doing an evaluation of the current policies to clean a few things up. Like Mr. Sullivan said, we know there's some issues, there's conflicts, so I know Mr. Jarvis has already reached out to Planning and Zoning Commission. They're setting a date to start those conversations. Once they'll flesh it out a little bit, and then they will present it to the council for our vote to make those policy changes.
So this is just basically Holbrook's policy on how to handle this?
well, it's because of the way our code is written. Our
Well,
code forces us to do those steps. and our code is backed by the vote of the council, and by doing our code and those steps, then that gives us leg if it was to go to court or something like that. Then we've done our due process through our code, and it, you know what I mean? So we have something to fight against.
But this is just a Holbrook code, is what
Right.
he's asking.
It is
so.
just a Holbrook code.
I-
Now, in
I-
the future, if our code, we do wanna make our codes more aggressive, we certainly could look at that, and that's something we could look at down the road.
When's
But
the
we would have to get our codes changed, and then make sure our attorneys, go through that and make sure we still can fight it through our code.
When's the last time the codes have been looked over and updated, or
I couldn't tell you. It's been a while,
years?
yeah.
So that's why they are gonna address it. Yeah, Vice Mayor Nelson.
I can see a lot of wisdom in this. I don't know how many of you remember the days of Roy W. Hunt when he was our city manager, but this actually, code enforcement actually caused a huge rift in the community against the council and the mayor and the city manager. Had we done this then, things might be different in Holbrook today. I just think there's wisdom in this.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So the contractor would help revise those codes?
Yes,
Okay,
potentially,
alright.
yeah.
Alright.
Well,
And
yes,
now that
Councilwoman.
Barbara's been doing this for a while too, I'm sure she's seen some things in the code that she may wanna recommend, or maybe if we did wanna get more aggressive, ideas that we can maybe change, so. And it is a third party, so,
Yeah.
that way we are keeping everything separate. And like we said, he's already doing this with Snowflake and Taylor, and he's done it with Winslow, so it kinda makes sense that we're, reaching out to him as well.
Councilwoman Pack, did you have something first?
I was just gonna say, I like the idea, I'm in agreement with, Councilman,
Vice Mayor Nelson?
yeah, Vice Mayor. But, could just get you to have two eyes looking at it, and one's not from here, and just, Barbara knows a lot. This guy, it seemed like he'd know a lot working in the
When did we start
communities.
working with him?
We just started, I think we had our first meetings right after Thanksgiving.
So I was saying yes. Councilman Black, you had a comment?
I just have a question for Barbara.
Mhm.
Are you seeing it beneficial? I mean, I'm looking at this timeline. How many, if you look at the first one, it says you give them a letter, you mail them a letter, and they have 30 days to,
They go out there first, yeah.
right. How many of them are you actually seeing them clear up after that first letter? And because the second letter is registered mail, right?
Right.
So I'm just wondering, are you seeing any of them at all cleaning, doing anything in that first 30 days before you send the registered letter out to them?
A lot of times they ignore everything until I get to the sanction and violation part and set up the hearing, then all of a sudden I hear from them. I mean, it depends. Some I do, you know, some ask for an extension, some ignore it, like I said, until they get to the point where I'm finding them. Then they'll contact me. A lot of them are out of state homeowners. So they don't respond right away, but eventually most of them do. And then we just stop at that point. But I can tell you, sending certified mail, most of them come back, cause either they're not accepting it, or they don't live there anymore, or they're deceased and we don't know because they never recorded anything in the recorder's office. So,
My question is down the road, I realize we're not gonna take care of this today but we said we'd revisit it if we wanted to get stricter. My question is, do you feel like it's a waste of your time to mail the letter out because you're not getting that many responses until you mail out the certified letter? My question is, could we do away with just mailing the letter and go straight to the certified letter? That's 30 days
I mean, I could still send it out certified, but I can tell you that pretty much every county in the state follows the same steps. I have been in contact with all of them. Well, not all of them, but most of them, and they all follow the same steps because you're required to give them enough time. I mean, if somebody's place, you know, is deplorable, they're gonna need 30 days to clean up, especially if people work, then what do they have the weekends, you know? So, you know, there is,
So
a
is there a
process that has
statute
to be covered.
that governs how the first letter, second letter, and whatnot? Is that by statute or by just that's the way it's done?
Well, it's written in code, but that
It's in
is
code.
the policy that Winslow uses and all the other areas around here. Phoenix uses them, Mojave County uses it. It seems to be the process. There is no miracle answer. I wish there was, you know. I wish I could go out there and clean them up and take a handful of people and get it done, but you can't. And then there's so many variables, you know, people die, people don't live there, we don't have their correct address, the recorder's office doesn't update. So there's a lot of factors. If somebody died, I have a lot of places that are on probate, we can't touch those. When they're on probate, you have to wait till probate's over, that's a 2-year cycle. So, you know, some we have to just let sit. But I think people are starting to realize that when we send the letters, as in the past, they just don't get a letter and then nothing gets followed up. You know, I'll call them, I'll talk to them, find out what's going on, what can we do to help you? You know, we have towing companies I can give you that can tow your abandoned vehicles for free. I can get you guys from the mission, and, you know. So we have options for them, but you know, the thing is, once they're done, don't go back because it's just a cycle, you know. But I know especially the abandoned properties that we have here, a lot of them have cleaned up. I don't know if you've noticed, they've put fences up, they've been ordering windows, putting windows in to bring them back to an occupied state. So landlords are working with me that way.
Well, we appreciate all your hard work. We know it is a thankless job and a hard one. So.
And when they come for a hearing, is it that done here?
Yes.
Who's the hearing officer?
Merrill Young.
Merrill Young is the hearing officer. And then, and really the hearing is only if they believe that their violation is unjust or uncalled for. And then at that point, we'll make a decision, well, he will make a decision as to, you know, whether, you know, we continue or we dismiss it. A lot of times people are under the impression if they pay the fine, they don't have to clean up. Even though it says in the letter that it does not exonerate you from cleaning up your property. But by, you know, putting the fine on seems to make people also want to clean up, because if it's a second time, then it doubles and it doubles and, you know, continues to grow.
All right, we appreciate that. I'm sure we could talk another hour on this. So we look forward to hearing from yourself and also Mr. Jarvis after getting with the Planning and Zoning Commission and with the recommendations, because I believe there will be some changes coming down the road. I don't know for sure, but I have a strong suspicion.
There are some things, you know, I just don't know what to do with. So, meeting with him, you know, I gave it to him to try and find out information on, like, the salvage yard, you know, out by McClaw's. I don't know what you do with that. It's been there for 30-something years and it was probably grandfathered, you know,
No.
so.
It was cleaned up at one time. They made him clean it up because they told him he was doing business actually out on the city property right next
Right.
to the street.
Right.
So,
So I have sent him a letter, he never responded to me either, so, you know, now we're at the second phase, and then it's like, what do we actually do from there? Do we go in there and start moving cars out? You know, those are like questions that I have, where, you know, how far do we go with it?
And legal questions, but I'm sure we have to
Right.
confirm with our attorney before we start
Right.
messing with properties, so. All right. Well, thank you for that. for the update, I appreciate it, so. All right, I'm sure it'll be an issue, you know, that we address multiple times this coming year, so we appreciate it. All right, moving on to item number G, the Personnel Policy, Section 202. This was a council action form by Councilman Black. The discussion was policy wasn't followed, so Councilman Black will give you the floor.
Yeah, I'm just bringing forth things that the citizens have talked to me about. They're asking questions. I don't have the answers. And talking with the mayor, she says from this point on, we need to start discussing policy changes. You know, we need to go into all of the Holbrook's policies that we have and discuss them, see what's going on. This one here, I just wanted to bring to the council and get their opinion on all these things that are going on. So basically, I'm just turning over to the council. I mean, you've got the policy in front of you. As it says on the front, we have the policy in place, but it's not being followed. So we can write or change all the policies we want in this world, but if they're not followed, then what good are we doing sitting here? So that's the point of bringing this to everybody's attention right now. Or if we're gonna start looking at policies, then let's start looking at them, and these are just the first two that were brought to my attention.
Are these employees in the same department?
And just so we know, before we move on too much, so I appreciate you not naming, so we've got to be careful as a council, we don't name names up here. We can just talk in generalities, we are policymakers. So continue on, but thank you for making sure you're not using names. So.
Within departments, is this not being followed within departments that
Right.
we know for a fact?
Right.
Yeah. So what we can do, so we can read it really fast. Section 202, nepotism. I'll just read the first paragraph. It does say appointment of relatives of city employees to regular positions in the city service shall be permitted, provided the relative shall not be employed in a position where one would be directly supervising the other, directly or in the same chain of command, or a conflict of interest might arise concerning a question of internal control. An employee may not be promoted or transferred into a position involving supervision by or of a relative. And for the purpose of this selection, relative is defined to include, and they send us everything there. So, says should a marriage or cohabitation between employees result in one having operational or supervisory control over the other, within 45 days, one employee must resign or transfer in the city's service. This option is only available if there is current opening and the employee is qualified, so as to eliminate the situation. No provision of this rule shall exclude relatives of the city council or city-appointed boards, commissions, or committees from entering the city service, provided no supervisory control of one over the other exists. So what we can do as a council is we can ask management to look in to see if we are indeed breaking this policy. If you can look into your departments, see where it is, and if you can come back and if there is any problems, that we get us back on track, that we are following and honoring our policies. Like Councilman Black said, you know, what's good of a policy if we're not following it? So if you can report back to us at the next city council meeting to see if there was any issues, if we have any of these direct line, and if so, correct those issues and get back to us.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. If we do have to transfer employees, we can do that. I will be notifying all you guys when that happens as well, before a meeting. I mean, the council don't have to have the action, but in the charter it says I do have the authority to make those transfers, but I do gotta notify council that those are happening.
And that's us, as I remember, we're a policy-making board and we're not to get muddled in the administrative part of it. However, that is the right as a council. If we're not following policy, you know, we just make sure it's getting corrected. Did you have a question, Councilwoman?
Yes, so if we're not following the policy, and by correcting it, you're gonna put someone from one department, we would have no choice but to transfer them or give them an option. What would be the
That's what it
corrective
says in
action?
here. We either transfer them or they have to resign.
So then you can, like, just saying in general, you're putting somebody, say, I don't know, one department is in the same department with a relative, who they've been there for a certain amount of years, and all of a sudden now they have to go to a completely different department they have no knowledge in.
if that's what we
No
have to do to correct
experience.
it.
It does say here, they've gotta be qualified, that's the stipulation in here, so.
So let's,
And we could give them time to qualify in the other
so for
position.
example, somebody would work for the parks and they were in violation of this and you thought, well, here's a place for them in water and sewer.
Right,
Then the city would have to provide them an opportunity to get a license, right? In a sewer license or a water license, so you could transfer them over. But if they didn't want that particular opening or wherever that is, then they would have to resign.
correct, as
Okay.
long as there's, a position open. And same thing, you know, if you wanted to just, I mean, since you mentioned parks, transfer them out to the golf course, that's pretty close to the same thing, so it's, obviously that would put the golf course over, and then we'd have to do something else. So you just gotta look at each situation differently and, make sure it's the right decision for both departments, really.
Because in a town of 5,000 or 4,850,
related.
within a generation, we're all related, right?
Correct.
It's within
So-
direct supervision, like,
Correct.
Correct.
like I couldn't be supervising like my daughter or son-in-law.
Correct.
And
But
is
you can
this-
have them,
Yeah,
And it's
but
mainly,
different-
it's
yeah,
mainly
yeah.
supervisory.
But is this going, is their salary gonna be, they take their salary with them to wherever? Because, I mean, if you think about it, you have somebody who has 10 years, say 10 years experience and making a certain amount of money in a position that he has 10 years experience in, going to, say, from parks to the grounds at the golf course, and one's making a certain amount here at 10 years, he's taking his 10-year experience salary to move to another department with no experience and has to get certified or get licensed to be able to be in that. And now you're making the same amount as somebody else who's been there with that same amount of years and experience and salary.
So typically when we've done this, you don't hurt their salary.
and the nice thing is, City of Holbrook for years, I know the 11 years I've been here, that there's always been some type of cross-training anyways, where streets will come out and help out parks or vice versa, or water and wastewater. But that doesn't mean they've got all the training. Like I said, giving those the opportunities to train them in whatever field they need to is. We want to make sure we don't hurt any of our employees. 'Cause we want to make sure we're good employees first and
We wanna
foremost.
retain all of our good employees.
Yeah.
But we
So-
wanna follow the policy.
So,
I mean, I totally agree with that. We don't wanna hurt any of them, but the policy was put in here for a reason. And we need to follow it. And so, I mean, I'm sitting here, well, you can't supervise it, but then if you look at that, it says, where one would be directly supervising the other. But then it says directly or in the same chain of command. And we have that, and we all, we know that.
Well,
But-
and maybe this is something as a council too, if we need to kind of edit the policy to make sure it fits, because like I said, it is a small town, to make sure, then we go see the way it is, however we can do it without hurting our employees. That's, I think, our biggest concern as a council, and hearing, let's not hurt them, but at the same time, there is wisdom in this policy. It's not a unique policy to Holbrook by any means.
No, I think this is a policy that all businesses basically have.
Yeah.
I think it should probably start at the hiring process of whoever's hiring and doing the background in whatever department they're applying for. I mean, that would be in that area to know if this person's applying for a position that's obviously being supervised or overlooked by someone of a relative issue. Because it could have been completely avoided at the hiring process.
I agree.
We just need to have everyone's genealogy.
I mean, it's not hard. I mean, you only have 4 or 5 people per department, 3, I mean, however, you just clearly can't have a son and a dad and a grandpa all in the same department.
And the policy is very clear on
Yes,
what relative.
so
and
I
things
mean,
like
it's
that,
not like
so
it's gonna be that hard not to.
I agree. Did you have one last comment? Oh, I thought you were about to say
Well,
something.
we've had situations like this at the power plant where 2 people fall in love.
Hopefully.
And then one is the supervisor of the other, and some of those were the hardest situations to deal with.
Well,
Well, the reason the policy's in place, one of the reasons is productivity too. When you get family working together, it seems to affect productivity, it seems to affect it. That's why the paper mill has an uptick, that's why everybody has it, one of the reasons, you know.
I'm self-employed and I'm gonna add it.
But
Just
it
kidding.
also-
I'm just kidding.
But it also gives the impression of when it comes to salary, pay raises, who's gonna get more time off and who doesn't have to work call out, and it just starts to get ugly and muddy all the way across.
And that's why a well-defined policy. And so,
I don't
so
have,
if we can direct staff then to look into this, make sure we're good and clear, you know, that this policy is to the best benefit of the city and to its employees, and if you can report back on it by the next meeting, is everybody satisfied with that?
Yes.
All right, thank you, so. All right, moving on to item number H, personnel policy, section 802, in regards to, maximum accrual limits on the vacation. Councilman Black, this is another item of yours.
yeah, this is another one that came about when we started talking about having to hire another person for the library because they all have so many hours of vacation time that they couldn't take their vacation because they didn't have people to fill in for them. And when we asked that question, and I had no idea that the city of Holbrook, you know, is actually allowing members to get up to 320 accumulated hours. And that to me is just crazy. And again, in the small town of Holbrook, to me, that's unreal. I don't think we can be doing that. But again, I brought it forward to the discussion of the council. I mean, I'd like to know, I know where I was from, that is way crazy. There was you didn't carry over vacation at all. I mean, the reason for vacation is you give them to your employees to take, to get off, to get out of here, to get away from things, reset their brain, be able to come back in and refreshed. If people are not taking their vacation, do they not need it? I mean, I don't know. It's just another one of the many policies in Holbrook that we need to look at and fix if we can and correct and move forward. But to me, this is a big one. That's a lot of hours. And if you have to pay these employees off, if they leave right now, Randy, do you have to pay these employees off? 320 hours, you have to pay them off, right?
If they're maxed out.
Sure.
Currently, there's only 5 employees that are close to it. None of them are maxed out, they're close to it.
Well,
And I think we need to clarify, this is the accrual vacation hours, this is not their annual vacation hours and
Correct.
things like that. So I'm gonna disagree with Councilman Black on this policy. As a city employee, we're different than a for-profit company that's got higher wages to begin with. We're a city government that we can only offer so much wages, so how are we gonna entice that quality employer to come to Holbrook? Is by benefits. And we'll see if, I'm gonna ask Mr. Sullivan if he knows what the surrounding area is. I don't believe 320 is extreme, and I don't wanna go to my employees and say, hey, either use them or lose them. In December, we wouldn't have anybody working. You know, we're already short-staffed. And so for me, it's like, I would rather pay them off. If you're willing to work, I'd rather pay you, what we owed you. If we owed you, you earned it. Let's give you that. Like I said, I want the city of Holbrook to be, and just like we talked about the nepotism policy, we need to be an example in this community for economic development and for a strong workforce, and that's gonna come with how do we treat our employees. And for me, this is not one that I wanna pick on our employees.
Well, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah.
I would feel like I would want my employees to take time out. I mean, at my office, I'm like, please take the day off because you can't get that day back. You can work until the day you die, but your vacation time is your time, and you need to take that time, even if you do nothing but pull weeds at your house or sit and watch Price is Right all day. Everyone is entitled to that vacation time, and we should definitely be pushing them to take vacation time. Like, take it. Like, I don't want someone to work their entire life, never get to use that vacation time. Period. I mean, it's a lot to carry. I mean, 320 hours is 40 working days.
40 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's 10 days or a week, or they could have taken off to take their kids. I don't know. Even if we're short-staffed, you know what? Then someone will just pick up the extra slack or put something off, but take your vacation time. Like, if we have to force you to take your vacation time, please take that time. Like, if you can roll it over, yeah, but you're only gonna get paid out on it, and you're gonna get taxed on it, and so if you died and your parents or your family gets that last paycheck, you're still gonna get taxed and you're not gonna get that time back.
That is my point exactly. I mean, I don't mind giving them the vacation time that they've earned right now, but you need to take your vacation. You can't sit there and keep rolling it over. It's just not.
And us as employees should not encourage them to
What is the county? What is their, a maximum amount you can accrue?
not accrue, we can only carry over 240 hours a year.
240.
And if it's any more than that, we can donate it back to like a care bank, we can, you can sell it back, but we're only
Is that
allowed
based on, is that your max accrual?
240, it does, yeah.
Then how many employees?
And I think
Let
this-
me
It doesn't
stop for
matter how
just a
many
second.
years.
Did you do any research about the surrounding areas?
Yeah,
Where
it's
do we
really
fit?
not it's really not consistent. I know I printed out, Sholo's has a max of 640. Now they include their sick as part of that, ours is separate, but they have a bank of 640, and when they retire, if they had a bank of 640, they would pay out the 640.
They pay
So-
out sick time too?
Yeah.
Again, we're comparing, every time I bring it up, we're comparing cities to cities, and people tell me we
Well,
can't
you were
compare
comparing
them.
it to the
Do I have
the
the
last
floor,
business.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, go ahead, you do.
Thank you.
You do.
But what I'm saying is, every time you bring up Winslow or something, well, they're bigger than we are. Absolutely. The state will let you carry 320. State's a lot bigger than we are. What I'm trying to do is say, we all know how small the city is, and we all know how, if you've got a bunch more employees accumulating 320 hours, and you have to start paying all that out, it's gonna hurt. You can't do it.
So these employees, you said that are getting close, how long have they been with the city?
A lot of them have been they're working on 20 years, 20, 30 years.
So in
with the
20
city.
years, they're not even quite to that accrual. So I think this is
So
a
even if
debate
you-
we're having for something that's really not affecting us at this point.
Yeah, so
You said
for
not, has
instance,
anybody hit the 320 accrual yet?
right now,
Four.
there's one person that is on the 320. And then at that point, if he don't start using, he loses it. So he's donating his.
You don't lose any, you just don't gain any.
You don't
Right,
get to accrue
right.
anymore.
So now
he's
he's
still
maxed out.
working, but he's not
Right.
accruing any more
Right.
leave.
Right, and he
That
won't
way.
start accruing anymore until he starts using some.
Right. So if he used 40 hours, then he would
Right,
start
then he would
accruing
start
up
accruing
to
a
that
little.
320 again.
Correct. And most people do, if you start accruing 80 hours a year, but you take 1 week off and you push the other 40, after 30 years, you could see how that could build up.
So, once you hit 320, you just won't accrue any more?
Correct.
Correct.
Until you start using that 320.
So in other words, you can't get more than 320 hours a year?
Accrued.
Accrued.
So they can't get more
That's
than
a-
160 hours a
That's the
year.
total bank. Yeah.
That's,
You can't gain more than 160 a year, and the 320 is twice that, which is typical for most places. Whatever your accrual amount is, you're allowed to bank 2 years of that. Pretty consistent every city that I've looked at. It's just the bottom line on how you want to create the total max limit, and that's just across the board. So it's really depending on the cities and those kind of things, so.
There's some people with health issues and that maybe they have a heart issue. And so they're wondering, well, I'm gonna keep that in case I ever have this particular health issue again. Or maybe they have a family issue where they might need to bank it for whatever reason,
That does happen, yes.
right?
Well, the thing about that.
And you
that
never
when
know
go
either.
Short-term disability or long-term disability, there's other provisions for that. But in talking about the comment the mayor made, it'll hurt our employees if we don't continue to do this. I think we need to convince our employees, hey, take your vacations. That's what they're there for, take them. I don't see anybody that's gonna say, I'm not gonna hire on with you because you're not gonna give me 320 hours of accrued vacation. I don't know any employee just looking at that.
I don't mind encouraging, but I don't think it's our right to force, so, but that's my opinion. Councilwoman Pack, did you have any comments? I'll make sure everybody's get a chance.
No, I kind of agree that we should have, benefits that are appealing whenever you work for the city or the government. That's what's most appealing. And I do agree with what Vice Mayor said about, people needing to accrue it because you can't apply for disability if you have a spouse that's hurting or a family member that's hurting. That doesn't apply to you. I just hope people are not taking a vacation because they feel like their job is a vacation.
And with that, Vice Mayor Nelson.
I just thought that was a really good line.
Councilwoman Tafoya, did you have anything to add to this?
I think 320 is a lot. I really do. I mean, I checked other places, and granted, it's separate than the city, but I do think 320 is a lot of time. And, if they can't take down because they're short staff, I mean, we hire somebody to be able for somebody to take vacation. That's pretty sad that we have to do that.
There's a little bit, that story kind of goes a little bit deeper, and I can't give the council, I don't have the liberty to say why we did that. Goes a little deeper than that, but when the time comes, you guys will all know of those circumstances of why we recommended hiring a person, but I'm not at liberty to say that right now.
Okay.
So what we can do at this point, this is just a discussion item. There was no action, because there was no recommendations, things like that. So it's just nice, as the league had told us before, it's nice to kind of get an idea what's, if this is an issue that we need to address as a council. So if it's something that Councilman Black or anybody wants to follow up with, or any recommendations, work with administration to bring a recommendation back to the council, we can do that. But at this point, there's nothing to vote on because there's no recommendation, it was just a discussion.
But this could be a policy that's discussed in like
Correct.
our,
Strategic planning,
our
work
session,
sessions.
work session,
Yes.
there you go, I just.
Yeah.
as long as it's
slipped my
still an
mind there for a
agenda.
minute.
Work sessions, we still have to have agenda items
Right,
because it's still a
right.
public meeting, but yes,
But
definitely.
this could be on there and it could be something that we could all hash
Hash it out.
out,
I agree. So
check on.
with that,
I think from my standpoint, just one last note, it's really hard to entice qualified workers already. And some of the city benefits, because we can't match pay, even with ADOT workers or any other private business, we can't match that pay. So the only thing that we have to entice some of these people, qualified workers, to come here is our benefits. And vacation is one of them, our health insurance is another. And those, by being top notch in those, it does help us get qualified employees.
Randy, I don't think anybody hires on thinking that they can accrue 320 hours.
but you don't know that.
I pretty much know that when I'm gonna hire on a job, I don't say, how many hours vacation can I accrue? That's not a question I would ask.
That's an assumption, but we're not gonna assume everybody doesn't look at benefits. I look at benefits. When I worked for the county, see, I got this job, when I worked for the city, I moved for $30,000 a year. Nobody does that. But I did because there was, like Mr. Willett Sullivan said, there was all those extra benefits. And so I did move for the benefits, not just the pay. Councilwoman Pat.
And especially with government jobs, that's the first thing you start looking at, is because they're gonna outshine, hopefully with benefits, compared to the public sector. That's their competing area, usually.
I agree, so. All right. Okay, so if this is an issue we want to continue to discuss, we can put it on a work session, we can bring it up as an actual recommendation to be voted on. So that'll be the next steps on that one, so. All right, moving on to item number 8, summary of current events. There's been a lot that's been going on. I've got some, and I know I'm not gonna get all of it, but first off, I wanted to say a big thank you for all the volunteers, participants, city employees that helped in all our holiday events thus far. We've had quite a few. We had over 200 people come to our tree lighting. I'm not sure how many people said it was more than 200. I know there was just a lot of people. But a big thanks to Mark and Lori Romo, Cindy Tafoya, Tim Kelly, Terry Tafoya, and Robin Gonzalez and their crew for making just all that downtown, really shine. And at the cemetery wall too, we want to appreciate both of you guys for that. The Festival of Trees, we had over 58 entries. That was put on by a coalition of churches in our area, and we have an outstanding volunteer crew there. Just a shout out to Kelly Spangler, Angela and Bob Keene, Sherry and Dan Reed, Karen Estridge, Debbie Shumway and Linda Young, and the many other volunteers from the school district and community members that go above and beyond. So that was just our core group, but you can't put on an event without participants for one. And then there's multiple volunteers that stay around to help set up and take down and things like that. The Parade of Lights was a fantastic event as well with 34 entries. Big thanks to the Chamber of Commerce and also to the Holbrook PD for making sure everybody was safe and put on a great show there. Congratulations to our Holbrook High School boys basketball team for taking first in the Round Valley tournament last week, so off to a good start there. Our Pat Kenny tournament was 2 weeks ago, and they said they had over 21 teams came to participate, and so that's a lot of teams coming to Holbrook. I don't know what our fast food restaurants look like, but I bet they were busy so with all those wrestlers. So, congratulations to Vice Mayor Nielsen for being elected yesterday. I hear to serve as our vice chairman of the Apache Navajo Counties Mayors and Council Members Association. So thank you for representing Holbrook on that. It's nice having somebody at the table. We appreciate that. And then Saturday, I don't have the times exactly, but up at Studio 66, they are doing a kids entrepreneurship program, like Lloyd had talked about earlier. And so if you have a young entrepreneur, bring them up. I think it's great that our businesses are taking the lead and getting our young people excited, because these kids literally are going to be the ones that are going to be opening up our businesses hopefully in a few more years. So with that, I know I've missed a few things, but I know you guys will fill me in on the rest. So Vice Mayor Nielsen.
Yeah, the Parade of Lights was wonderful. The Festival of Trees was tremendous. The musical groups that came to perform really made it. I bet 1,000 people came throughout the days and see their kids or whatever. It was a wonderful experience. Like the mayor said, I represented her yesterday at the Apache Navajo Counties Mayors and Council Meeting Association. Tom Belshey was the speaker. He tried to emphasize the power that we have as members of City Council in the state, and that they need our support, our state legislatures, and that's where our power resides, is in our state legislature and our senator, that we've got a lot of power, especially collectively, all the cities in Apache and Navajo County. And so they've scheduled a meeting in at the state capitol, which will be February 22nd. You're right, 22nd. It had 2 different dates, but 22nd, and we're invited to go and talk to our legislatures at that particular time. He also wanted us to stay involved when there's something that we need to do. He said phone calls mean way more than emails. We need to call. There's going to be a $400 million shortfall this year, and part of that happened because of taxes and whatnot, and also at the same time they want to lower the taxes from state taxes from 18 to 15%, and that's going to be part of the shortfall. Also, this meeting is held quarterly, and so the next meeting in the spring will be in Sholo, and then in Snowflake in the summer, and they'd like us to host it in the fall or the winter. And I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Councilman Black.
Yeah, I just got short. We lost quite a few people this last month. Eddie Galdone passed away. We have his son that works for the city. And Bud McClaus passed away recently also, and Jay Williams. All longtime residents of Holbrook. So we want to give our condolences to their families and let them know that we're thinking about them.
thank you. Councilwoman Pat?
Well, yeah, I was just at the wrestling just a little bit ago, but I just wanna thank the community for everything that they do to put on something so big. And they weren't even charging for the first part of Pat Kenny, so, I mean, that, you never find that at other cities. But, anyways, and also condolences to, Leland Williams' family. Leland passed away, got hit by a train, and it's been really hard on this family, so condolences to them.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Tafoya?
I just wanna ditto everything on the tree lighting and the festival of the trees and the parade, they were all outstanding. And also, kudos to the city for putting up the handicap swings. They put 2 regular handicap swings at Hunt Park, and they also put one at Lewis Park. And before I asked about the swings, I called some residents over by Lewis Park to see if they even wanted one over there, because they only have like 3 swings to begin with. And a couple of the people said yes, they do have a handicapped child there, and that they thought it would be good, so they put it up. And she sent me a message and said that her heart was so happy to see that handicapped child over there on that swing, that he was having the time of his life on that handicapped swing. So I appreciate those getting put up, and I'm sure that they will be used by several students and children.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pacheco?
It's been brought up a couple times about why the city, manager position's not posted online.
Cause we,
And
go ahead, sorry.
and then I was thinking, where are we at in the update for that?
The what is not online?
The city manager position, like that it was even vacant right now, and that we would be hiring for it eventually. And then made me start thinking about what is the update on that.
Okay, we will make sure that's addressed for you.
That was that one. That was it.
All right.
Everything else was the same as you guys said.
All right, thank you.
I had just one other thing I forgot, and it's that Carlos Jimenez is gonna retire, and we really need someone to replace him as soon as we can.
That position is open
Okay.
and posted.
What does he do?
He's the driver
He's
for
the
the
driver and the
senior center.
maintenance and the,
For the senior center.
he does everything there. And we're gonna have a small party for him the 27th at the senior center. I just wanted,
No, thank you.
Never
said.
He's been here with a long time. So
25 years with the city.
that's amazing, so, no, we appreciate that. All right, Mr. Sullivan, what time is yours?
Okay, I have quite a big list. Echo Vice Mayor Nelson on our legislators. Another thing they suggested too is kind of get to know them, invite them to our community. If we have events, try to get them here, call them and get them here, and that kind of goes a long way. And they said they get emails, but they get a lot of emails, so they're flooded. So that's why they really said a phone call really can. If they get a phone call from you, they'll vote a lot harder going with you versus just emails and.
Can I
those kind of
interrupt you for
things.
1
Yeah,
second?
go ahead.
One thing that he suggested was invite them here and give them an award, because there's no politician in the state.
But it would have been great to invite them to our Parade of Lights or our Festival of
Right.
Trees, get to know them, and even if it's just like something simple like that, would go a long way. I'm gonna also announce, even though it's a partnering city, Snowflake they're doing a giving machine. And they're opening it up from December 15th through the 31st. And it's kind of like a vending machine where you could donate monies and stuff like that for other organizations, for people in need for this time of year. Opening night is at 4. Ribbon cutting is at 4 on the 18th at the Freeman House there in Snowflake. So if you guys did want to go, I do know it's neighboring, but that is I think it's worthwhile. The department of, every year, we have, or every several years, we have an audit on our levy. And that is ran by the Army Corps of Engineers. We do have two other levies that are not certifiable, and one is on the 7th Street. It's that wash that goes behind 7th Street. Arizona Department of Water Resources, they view those. Their new engineer has a concern that we don't have an overflow weir over there. And so that's going to be a project that we're going to have to start looking at in the future. Right now, I told him we really don't have no funds. This is brand new coming to us. So he's going to start looking for grants for us that maybe can help us with that. The letter from Evelyn will be in your guys' boxes, hopefully maybe tomorrow. And then I really would like you guys to read those, make sure all your priorities are in there and addressed, and then that way we can move forward with that. Update on the handicap swings. After I realized that Lewis had short swings, I ordered another swing set for that, so that's on order. And Lizitsky don't even have swings, so I ordered swings for Lizitsky. So Lizitsky, when those come in, we'll be able to put swings and a handicap at Lizitsky. The wheelchair one is going to be a little bit more detailed. After reading the instructions to put it up, they're requiring it to be locked up every night, maybe have fencing around it so other kids don't get on it and horseplay. It could be dangerous that way. So I have an idea where to put it at Home Park, but it's going to take a little bit more work where we have to cut out concrete and stuff like that. So be patient on that. I wanted to update council and the public. The water out back come January 1st. It's going to be locked up. So any customers that come on the nights or weekends, they'll have to come and make sure they prepay and get a code from us. So we're going to start regulating that a little bit more. The tank out at Sun Valley is completed. We're going to have a photo op next Thursday at 11 o'clock with CDBG, the construction workers, and those kind of things. Barbara and Daniel Gabaldon worked really hard on that project, and it went pretty smooth. So we're really, they were a really great company to work with. Barbara seemed to have a good working relationship with them, and then Daniel on our side worked with them pretty well too. So it was pretty seamless. That is up and running, so it's already part of the system out there.
Say that again, next Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
Next Thursday at 11, right, Barbara?
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, before that, before Christmas.
21st.
Oh, 21st.
21st
So,
at 11. Out at Sundown.
the streets department have been working on 13th and 8th Avenue projects. They are, we're getting a crack seal machine next week, so we'll be slowing down on those projects and start heavily working on crack seals. I met with the county. We used to work with the county and do a joint chip seal project with them, but now they went out to bid and contract on them. So my next step is to try to piggyback off of their contract for a chip seal project this summer or this spring. The Parks Department started edging, so we have an edger. If you look at the parks, they started edging today. It's pretty rough, so it may take them a little while, but they have a machine now and they're out there edging that. I think that'll make the parks look a lot nicer too. A couple of months ago, I applied for a WIFA grant to help us replace all of our meters within the city. We have a grant review with that next week, and that project is almost $1 million project if that gets awarded. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that we have a good grant review next week, and that gets going. The other thing with streets, there's a new product out that we are trying, and so far the reviews are really good. It's a patch, and it's mainly a patch that we use during the winter times where you can't have oil, hot oil, those kind of things, and it looks like it's just millings, but after you drive over it a couple times, it gets really compacted, and so we bought some product with that. If you see that, you'll start seeing that around in towns as well, or the town during the winter months. And so far, it's looking good. That's all I have.
I have one more thing before we close. The expenditures weren't in there this time. We're gonna continue putting, I know Tim doesn't like them to be on the agenda, but you've been putting them in our packets.
Yeah.
Can we continue to get
Yeah.
those?
Yes, we will.
All right. Are you finished with your updates, or did you have any more?
Oh yeah, Barbara has kind of an exciting update on some potential awards, grant
Go
awards.
ahead. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so we've been talking a while about starting housing rehab here in Holbrook, and a grant just came out from the state, which is a blessing for us because it's emergency housing rehab. So this one is different because I don't have to do any liens on the properties. It's okay if they happen to be in a flood zone. And, what was the other thing? Now I'm brain dead. No liens, and no, it doesn't matter if they're in a flood zone. So it's emergency repairs. We can do, I figured out on the grant, spend approximately $15,000 per household. This is not all inclusive of going in and doing everything. These are for emergency repairs that would otherwise make the home dangerous and the people would have to leave. So it still covers the same thing: heating and cooling, roofing, electrical, plumbing. If your floors are falling through, we can also do standalone ADA accessibility with that as well, and we can do code with it as well. So we're anticipating about 11 homes, somewhere about 15,000, some will go higher, some will go lower. So we have, I think, 17 people on the waiting list right now. We need to build that up, but the grant is due February. I've been talking with the state with it. The other good thing is we don't have to do weatherization with this because it's just standalone emergency. That gives us time to be able to figure out what we're gonna do, get someone trained and hired. So it's $250,000. $225,000 is for program itself, and then $25,000 will go towards administration. So that would help to sustain salaries, where we wouldn't have to be taken out of the general fund. So we can, also put in there our costs for, managing a portion of the phones and paper, supplies, driving. So it'll alleviate a burden of, on us for finances. So it's due in February. I've got half of it written right now. The rest of it, we have to put in the general plan in there and other things. So I need to get with Randy on copies on that. But I've been talking with the state, and I'm pretty sure that we'll get funded for that, and it will be the start. So that's the better way that it came in under emergency, which they haven't issued emergency in probably 10 to 15 years. So I don't know if they're changing how they want to fund things now or what they want to fund. But so that'll be coming up for a resolution to submit and apply. And I think I'm going to do different flyers. You talked about maybe the high school helping, or so I think we need to get it out there that I think it will appeal to more people, not knowing that there's not a lien on it. But they can also, after we do that one thing and they still have other things, they can stay on the list for more work. So it won't affect it. So, just want to let you know that's coming up the pike and I'm excited
All right, thank you very much, so.
and crazy at the same time.
All right. Is that
Now that is all I
awesome?
have.
Thank you.
very
We're excited. Good things happening, so. All right, moving on to item number 9, submission of written petition for items not on the agenda.
I don't have any more.
There are none. With that, item number 10, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion?
7:44.
Do I have a second? Got a second from Vice Mayor Nelson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right. Well, everybody have a Merry Christmas,
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Holidays, all that good stuff, so.
Who knows?
Yeah, so we're calling it 7:44.
That's what I said.
Who seconded it?
Vice Mayor Nelson. And then we will have a work session in January.
Oh, yeah, that is a work, no.
No, that'll be a regular one, then we'll plan on January.
2 days after.
So we'll have our first meeting in January, and then the next meeting
We're gonna
until January.
go sledding with the kids.
That'll be fun. Randy, usually Lisa has, the minutes for me to sign from last week. Wait, Lisa. Just give those to Lisa too then.
What was the thing on Wayne?
Here, wait a second, did you turn off the
Did you
video?
turn off the recording?
The only reason why is the vice chairman. I seconded